Welcome into Green Dot Daily. Happy Tuesday, everybody. We're live every weekday at 3 Eastern on the Action app and YouTube channel. If you're watching on YouTube, give us a like and subscribe. It really helps. I'm Charlie DiSturco taking you through this journey today, and coming up on the show, we're talking PGA Championship with Spencer Aguiar. Can Jordan Spieth get that elusive Grand Slam? Plus, how to handicap the live golfers this weekend. It's opening night in the WNBA as well. So Jim Turvey and Sean Koerner will hop on to break down their favorite bets and how to attack Caitlin Clark's debut. But let's start as we have most of the last couple of weeks, and that's in the NBA. Despite Donovan Mitchell missing Game 4 last night, the Cavaliers gave the Boston Celtics a run for their money. Darius Garland dropped 30 points, but it was not enough as Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown combined for 60 points in a 109-102 win. C's head home, leading 3-1. And in the nightcap, it was the ultimate thriller. The Oklahoma City Thunder storming back from 14 points down to take the Mavericks down in Dallas. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander put on yet another MVP performance, dropping a playoff career high 34 points. Kyrie Irving held to single digits for the second time this series, which is tied at 2 apiece heading back to OKC in Game 5. And that leads us to tonight's key Game 5 matchups. Injuries plaguing the New York Knicks, who remain shorthanded in the wake of OG Anunoby's injury. Series is tied at 2 apiece at Madison Square Garden tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern. And perhaps the wildest series to date, the Nuggets have ripped off 2 straight road wins to even the series at 2 apiece. The defending champion Nuggets return home tonight against the Timberwolves at 10:30 Eastern. So that brings us to Jay Money coming in here red hot. We're going to talk some NBA, Jay. The 2 Game 5s tonight, the pivotal ones. It feels like the New York Knicks are on life alert. It feels like that classic commercial where the old grandma's on the floor yelling, "I'm down, I can't get up." And the Knicks, it feels that way. OG Anunoby, most likely out with an injury. Jalen Brunson, hobbled. So I have to ask you, it's 2 games apiece in New York. Is this a must win for the Knicks before heading back to Indianapolis in Game 6?
Yeah, it's definitely a must win, absolute must win for the Knicks, in my opinion. We know that the Pacers are coming in off 2 really great wins at the house, which really both teams have done what they're supposed to do and protect home court. So that's why we're 2-2 headed back to MSG. But this is definitely a huge game for the Knicks. Obviously, they're a little bit hobbled, but with them getting blown out in Game 4, they actually come into this game probably more rested than they have been all season. We know that Tibbs likes to play his guys a ton of minutes over there, but this is a very important game at the house in Madison Square Garden for the Knicks tonight, and I believe they feed off their home crowd.
Yeah, it'll be really interesting because, Jalen Brunson obviously not 100% right now, and it's showing. And now OG Anunoby's on the sidelines, and the injuries just keep racking up for a shorthanded Knicks. So this is, as must win as it can, because then maybe you at least secure Game 7 home court advantage, and maybe you can get OG back. We'll see about that, and also gives time for Brunson to get healthy. But the other game tonight, right after the Knicks, Pacers, another 2-2 series, Nuggets, Timberwolves. Are the Timberwolves on life alert? I mean, this was incredible. We talked about this last week. It was 2-0 Timberwolves going back to Minnesota, and now we're back in Denver for Game 5 at 2 apiece.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy because obviously the Timberwolves went up 2-0. Like, they were underdogs for the series, and then everybody's like, oh, okay, the Wolves are about to sweep them. Then the Nuggets come in there Game 3 and Game 4 and smack them up in Minnesota as well. So the Timberwolves better be on life alert because they had the home court advantage. Now they've lost that back to the Nuggets here, and they're playing with all the momentum as well. So in my opinion, it's all on the Wolves to make some adjustments here. Like I said, I mean, it's a really crazy series for them to go up 2-0 on the road, then lose both home games. They kind of got a little too fat and happy there, but it seems like the Nuggets have really kind of figured out some their offense and figured out how to go up against that tough Wolves defense as well. So the Wolves better be on life alert, and it'll be very interesting to see if they can duplicate a Game 1 or Game 2 in Denver tonight.
Yeah, and Anthony Edwards is playing out of his mind, but I still go back to that end of the first half sequence in Game 4 where the Nuggets score, was it, or 8 points in 20-something seconds, including the half-court heave from that. I mean, that basically sealed the deal right there. 8 points in 20 seconds. They win by 8 points. I mean, man, if you're in Minnesota right now, tonight and getting things right and before heading back home, is probably as must win as it comes. And for what it's worth, in a series tied 2-2. 82% of the teams that won game 5 went on to win the whole series. So a pivotal game 5, both in New York for the Knicks and in Denver for the Nuggets. And obviously, fortune favors the Denver Nuggets and the defending champions. But I do want to get your best bet for tonight's games. And you are heading out back to the Eastern Conference side of things and the New York Knicks. And you mentioned that they're rested because they got the doors blown off them in game 4. Do you think that kind of helps them here tonight?
Yeah, let's go over to the streets of Madison Square Garden in this one, man. I will take the Knicks in the first quarter on the money line. They have to come out and throw the first punch, especially after losing game 3 and game 4. I mean, game 4 was absolutely smack city. They were down 21 points in the first quarter in that game. They got to come out with a lot more force and desperation in this game 5, and I believe they will at the house as well in Madison Square Garden. We've seen the Pacers play really well in this series, in my opinion, but we've also seen them getting rattled in Madison Square Garden. We know that's probably one of the toughest crowds in the NBA, especially in the playoffs as well. So after starting game 4 absolutely horrible, I think the Knicks get some get back in this one, man. I think that they want to try to swing the momentum, and it all starts in this first quarter. You got to come out and throw the first haymaker in this one. And like I say, with them getting blown out, guys like Josh Hart and Brunson actually finally were able to get some rest and didn't have to play 40 plus minutes in that one. So not really, I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I wouldn't be surprised if the Pacers were able to, because we know without OG Anunoby it's a little bit more difficult for the Knicks to defend these guys, because they go like 9 deep over there. But I expect, at least for the first quarter, the Knicks to play their starters and come out here with some desperation in this one in a bounce back J spot. I will take the Knicks in the first quarter on the money line tonight. Go Knicks.
Right. And it feels like the odds are stacked up against the Knicks right now. So, usually, you're betting the first quarter, the first half, when teams are down 3-1 in a series, because you're expecting the all-out effort. But I would argue that this 2-2 series is just as must-win and all-out effort that the Knicks need, because then they're going back into Indy where they haven't fared well. And that game 3 that was so close, just falling through their hands. So I love this look for the Knicks. I even wore my hat for you for good luck, Jay. We're hoping that the Knicks can pull this one out. I'm right down the street from Madison Square Garden. So, but I do want to say best of luck tonight. Thanks for hopping on, and we'll see if the Knicks can get it done.
Thanks, Charlie. Let's go Knickerbockers.
Hey, everybody. It's Joe Delara, and I've got a couple of my favorite plays for today's NBA playoff slate. The first play that we're looking at is TJ McConnell over 15.5 points plus assists. McConnell's been instrumental to the Pacers' success so far this series, and he's averaging 12.3 points and 6.5 assists per game. He's found a ton of success as both a scorer and as a distributor, especially as the Pacers have had to lean a little bit more heavily on Tyrese Halliburton as a scoring threat. As a result, McConnell has seen his distributing rise as he's been on the floor. On the series, McConnell has exceeded 15.5 points plus assists in 3 of 4 games, and I like the combo stat for him given the variable outcomes that he brings to the table. He can exceed and see spikes in both his points and in his assists, so while the floor is stable, I like the ability to spike in either the points or the assists. So I like McConnell in Game 5 to exceed 15.5 points plus assists. For my next two plays, I'm looking at the Denver Nuggets versus the Minnesota Timberwolves Game 5. The first play that we're looking at is Aaron Gordon over 4.5 assists. So the Nuggets evened up the series in Game 4, and they made a number of crucial adjustments. One of those adjustments was that Aaron Gordon and Nikola Jokic are bringing the ball up more to help free up Jamal Murray and kind of alleviate that torture that Jaden McDaniels and Nickeil Alexander-Walker have subjected him to. While this has also freed up Murray, it's thrown Karl Anthony Towns into space, which is not really an advantageous position for him. They've best been able to do this when Rudy Gobert is on the floor, because Cat needs to then defend closer to the level since Rudy's already in a drop. In the 3 games Gobert has played this series, Gordon has recorded 6, 5, and 6 assists on 8, 7, and 11 potentials. The potentials were highest in Game 4 because of those adjustments that I just mentioned. I like Gordon to exceed 4.5 assists tonight, and you can even grab that at a plus number. Next, we're looking at Christian Braun over 8.5 PRA. He's a better roll man and screener than both Reggie Jackson and Justin Holiday, and as a result, he's solidified his place as the 6th man for this Nuggets team, and he played 25 minutes off the bench for them in Game 4. When Braun has played 15 or more minutes this season, he's exceeded 8.5 PRA in 81% of games, and he's averaged 13.8 PRA in those games. If he sees 20 or more minutes, this jumps to a 95% hit rate on 16.3 PRA. After a strong performance in Game 4, I expect Brown to see extended run once again in Game 5, and I like him to exceed 8.5 PRA. So to recap, my 3 favorite plays for today's NBA playoff slate are TJ McConnell over 15.5 points plus assists, Aaron Gordon over 4.5 assists, and Christian Brown over 8.5 PRA. Best of luck on your wagers today, and enjoy the rest of your Tuesdays.
Thank you, Joe. And the WNBA season gets underway tonight, and it's no surprise. The Caitlin Clark era is here. The Indiana Fever square off tonight at 7:30 p.m. Eastern. They are 8-point underdogs, and you can take a look at Caitlin Clark's props, all available at FanDuel. Perhaps most notable is that 20.5 points prop, which opened as high as 22.5. And I can't think of a better way to rein in the WNBA season and talk Clark's debut than with Sean Koerner and Jim Turvey. So I mentioned that points prop, and I don't think it's a surprise that we've seen sharp action come in on the under, but BetMGM has said that Clark's over is the most bet player prop in both the WNBA and the NBA tonight. So obviously a lot of interest garnering around Clark's debut. Sean, I'll kick it to you first. Just what do you expect from this, and what are you looking for particularly? I know you don't have any horse in the race on tonight's game.
Yeah, I mean, initially I liked the Sun when they were -5. Now that it's all the way up to -8, I'm probably going to back off. But very excited about Clark's debut. I think, the key thing here is that Kelsey Mitchell, the Fever's leading scorer from last season, is doubtful tonight with an ankle injury. So I think, Clark might shoot even more tonight as a result. So I was looking at her assist prop. Sometimes it's like bumped up to 7.5. I think if it gets back up to 7.5, I would like the under, because again, she's going to probably shoot a bit more tonight. Kelsey Mitchell is somebody I thought that she'd be getting some assists to. She's a 3-point shooter as well. So I think, Clark's under 7.5 assists seems like the play for me. But again, I'm staying away from her props. I like to bet on people once they have a couple games under their belt and some data to go off. So I'm going to just sit back and enjoy it.
Yeah, it's hard to, project just usage overall, everything right now. It's her debut. Expectations are as sky high as you can make it. Same with on the MLB side of things. We were talking off air. Paul Skeens makes his debut over the weekend. You don't really know what to expect from him. But Jim, I know you in particular, right when the line dropped, was one of those guys that I aforementioned sharps that I mentioned that bet the under when it was 22.5. That number is now down to 20.5 at most spots. You have a different angle you like when it comes to fading Caitlin Clark's debut.
Yeah, Sean mentioned Kelsey Mitchell being out. I definitely think that's a big factor in terms of me. I liked it at 22.5. I just thought it was a little bit too high. 20.5, I'm fine sitting that way out. I am going to be looking at under 3.5 threes, though. Dana Matai talked about this on Action Island, had some really good points you walked through. It's my favorite way to fade Caitlin in the market. Now, I'm not Caitlin hater. You see, cut back to me. I've got the Indiana Fever shirt on and everything. I promise I'm not just a hater. It's just these markets are a little bit inflated right now. So honestly, my favorite way to play her would be an under or an over on her turnovers, but we don't have that in the market right now. So I'm looking at instead is under on her threes. The Sun last year gave up they had the best 3-point field goal percentage defense in the league. This is a team that basically is like custom built to be angry at Caitlin Clark in her first game for getting all the attention. I think they're going to be hawking her. I think they're going to give me a really hard time. It's one of the best defenses in the W. So I really like if you're looking to be on a Caitlin Clark fade of some sort. I think the points number maybe moved a little bit too much. I like the under 3.5 threes. Still getting plus money on that. So that'll be my Caitlin Clark play of the day right now.
Yeah, I mean, no surprise, everything's inflated. Like you're not a hater, Jim. We understand. No one's a hater. It's hard to really tell someone buy the over of probably the most bet person in every single category of their prop. So totally understand that. Caitlin Clark obviously debuting tonight for the Indiana Fever. But let's talk about the grand scheme of things with the WNBA, with the season getting underway today. Jim, you have a future in particular that you like as well when it comes to win total, but also a championship bit as well.
Yeah, I'm really high on the Storm. If you've listened to any of the WNBA buckets pods, anything like that, I've been on the Storm all season. So they had a strong core last season. They didn't win a ton of games. They had Jewel Lloyd, who was the leading scorer in the W. They had Ezi Magbegor, who's a really young, talented rim protector factor. They added two incredible talents in the offseason. They added Neko Ogumake and they added Skylar Diggins-Smith. Those are both all WNBA level talents. I think Neka might be about the fourth, fifth best player in the W right now, even though she's a little bit older. Incredible talent. She's also, I think, the most malleable talent to build around in the W. It's really easy to build a team around her. She's a great leader as well. So they've got a really good core. Their win total right now is sitting at about 24.5. I like that over, but I also like even a shot at their title odds at around 14-1. I just think this team really belongs in the tier with the Aces and the Liberty rather than a tier below with kind of the Sun and maybe the Mercury and some of those other teams where they're being priced at right now.
Right. And then you look back last season, 11-29, their win total now double, but you mentioned all the offseason acquisitions that they've made to retool the team, looking a lot better this season. So that'll be, something to keep an eye on, like taking a little bit of a long shot. No Liberty, no Aces, which feels like they were always in it at the end of the year. But let's talk tonight in particular, best bets. We already talked to Caitlin Clark. Let's talk Mystics, Liberty. Sean, I'll kick it to you first. The Liberty are 11-point favorites on the road. You're targeting a player on the Liberty side of things.
Yeah, so I'm going with Brianna Stewart of the Liberty over 8.5 rebounds at -120. She cleared this number 60% of the time last season, but this is a plus matchup for rebounds. The Mystics allowed the second most boards per game last year. They struggled on the offensive glass as well, having the lowest offensive rebound rate in the league. And it could be even worse this year considering Deanna Hawkins, their best offensive rebounder, retired in the offseason. So they're likely going to be worse in that department. They also lost Elena Deladon, which means players like Brittany Sykes, Ariel Atkins will be taking more shots, which, they shoot more three-pointers. So there's just going to be more missed field goals, more potential rebounds to go around. So I like Stewie, to clear this around 60% of the time. I'm actually projecting this at 9.5. So I have this a full rebound higher. So I love Stewie to go over 8.5 rebounds here.
Yeah, maybe Stewie a double threat tonight. They are huge favorites. Hopefully they're not up by like 40 and they sit the entire bench at the end. But Jim, Sean mentioned Deladon being no longer here. So the Washington Mystics have some offense to be had, and you're targeting Brittany Sykes on that side of things.
Yeah, exactly. Sean made a couple of points that kind of overlap with how I'm approaching this as well. Yeah, Deladon no longer in Washington, actually potentially not playing this season. Natasha Cloud no longer there. Natasha Cloud was a player that stepped up last season when they needed usage filled. And Shakira Austin's actually on a minutes limit, which I think goes to Sean's bet as well. I think I'm going to be tailing that as soon as I get off here, because with Shakira Austin, the Mystics best rebounder, that just means more potential rebounds for Stewie. So really like that. But on the Washington side of things, if we have no Deladon, we have no Cloud, we have a minutes limit Shakira Austin, means a lot of usage up for grabs. So Brittany Sykes is the player who really kind of took a hold of things when the Mystics had injuries last year, and there was some usage available. The year was usage up for grabs. She averaged about 20 points, 5 rebounds, and 5 assists during that stretch. I'd love to get on her points plus rebounds assists. I don't see it out there yet. So I'll play the points. I'm going to play the kind of the baseline at 16.5. I also like some escalators, her to score 20. Even if you see 25 in the market, there were a couple of games she was up around 30 points last year when they were really kind of hit with injuries. She's coming off a career year in terms of points per game. She's really kind of developing into an offensive threat from a player who started her career as kind of famously this defensive kind of wizard. She's really improved her game a lot. Really like Brittany Sykes. I think she's gonna have a great season in general, and get off to a good start against a Liberty backcourt that really doesn't bring a whole lot defensively.
Yeah, possibly undervalued given the Deladon and Cloud not being with Washington. Maybe the points prop just a little bit too low buying now. And you're speaking my language, Mr. Turvey, when you say escalators. That is, a very big weak spot for me. And Sean knows that very well too. But before I get Sean's MLB pick, which it's coming up in a short while, Jim, you do have one more pick, and that's on the Aces sides of things. They're 16.5-point favorites. Total right around 170 against Phoenix. Let us know your last prop.
Yeah, for sure. So the last one was Brittany Sykes, looking for like maybe a little bit of a hidden angle. This is the best player in the league is going against like a paper thin front court, and she's going to demolish them. So this is Asia Wilson over 23.5 points, over 9.5 rebounds. Those are about her season averages last year. She now goes against the Phoenix Mercury team that's going to be without Brittany Griner. She's likely going to get about 40 minutes of Morgan Birch and Natasha Mack. If you haven't heard those names, don't worry about it. I barely know those names, and I follow this league very closely. These are not the type of players who are going to be able to slow down A'ja Wilson. The biggest worry, like you said, Charlie, is maybe, a blowout and having sat the fourth. She often did that last year, and she still got these numbers. And I'll tell you one little final thing in favor of this bet in terms of leaving her in. If you remember, towards the end of the season last year, there was the whole MVP debate. Brianna Stewart got the award. Head coach of the Aces, Becky Hammond, said, hey, maybe if I left A'ja Wilson in a few more of those blowouts, got her stat line a little bit higher, she'd be the MVP. Well, maybe start the season on ring night. You get A'ja a nice big stat line to get the season started off right. So I'm looking at A'ja Wilson, and Charlie, you could even look at some escalators on that as well. I think.
Oh gosh. Oh my goodness. I don't know what I'm going to be able to do myself. I take every single bet on the WNBA spot, but 2-time MVP, as you mentioned, back-to-back defensive player of the year. So we're not hiding in plain sight here. Maybe it's not Caitlin Clark and all the love on her end, but A'ja Wilson definitely in for a great night. So Jim, I'm going to let you go. Sean, you're giving me one baseball pick in a sec, but thanks, Jim, so much. Good luck tonight.
Thanks.
All right, Sean. It's me. It's you. You're giving me a strikeout prop. If people tuned in, to our Discord, which obviously join our Discord if you haven't already, that's where Sean gives most of his props out. If he's not on Green.Daily, you targeted Chris Flexen and the game was rained out. Tell us why we might even be getting a better discount today with fading Flexen.
Yeah, so I was on Chris Flexen under 3.5 strikeouts yesterday. So I'm back on it today, and it's at 4.5 right now, at -150. He's facing the Nationals here. This is now going to be the first game of double headers, so his pitch count floor might be a bit higher. They probably want to save their bullpen for game 2 if they can. So I do think he's going to probably throw a little bit more pitches today as a result. I still like his under. He's coming off the 8 strikeout game against the Rays, but it was mostly a fluke. The Rays only made contact with 36% of the pitches they swung at outside of the strike zone. That's not really Flexen's game. He is more of a contact pitcher. And the Nationals are going to be a much tougher matchup. They whiff at a very low rate. They have a tough lineup today, although I was pissed. I told you, Charlie, they they have Riley Adams in there for game 1 instead of Keibert Ruiz, which definitely hurts. And I think that's why his prop ultimately went up a full strikeout, but I'll still take it. I'm showing projected odds closer to -210 for under 4.5. So 4 is still, very likely to happen. So I'll take that. Earlier, they were having under 3.5 at plus money. I'd probably stay away from that if possible because of the new lineup. But I love this under 4.5. Again, he's not really a strikeout pitcher, and the Nationals are a very tough team to strike out. So still sticking with Flexen today, under 4.5 strikeouts.
Right. What better way to fade Flexen off his 8 strikeout performance against the Rays? And if you look back at his game log, every single game prior this season has been under 4.5 strikeouts. And the Nationals are a big contact team. Obviously, no Ruiz hurts. We were cursing at the air off show before that. But let's hope for the best. Sean Koerner, thank you so much. Enjoy the WNBA tonight. Best of luck. This game gets underway in just about an hour, so best of luck there as well.
Thank you.
And over to golf and the PGA Championship, another major coming up this weekend. And the question everyone's asking, can anyone dethrone Scotty Scheffler? He's won the last 2 tournaments he's played in, and 4 of the last 5. He's the favorite here at plus 450, but has not played in an official match in over a month. Live golfers, Brooks Koepka, Jon Rahm inside that top 5 as well. And of course, Xander Schauffele at 14-1. Xander, Sunday Scary Schauffele. Don't know if he'll ever win a major, but he is inside that top 5. And keeping that in mind, we're going to play a little buy or sell with Spencer Aguiar. Let's start with Rory McIlroy. He obviously took down the win at Wells Fargo last weekend, beating Xander. Can't finish on a Sunday Schauffele. Are you looking to buy or sell Rory with this PGA Championship on deck?
I mean, this, Charlie, generates a very political answer I'm about to give, but I think it depends on what context we're talking about this for Rory. He's going to be a buy in the sense that that pressure of the Masters, the career Grand Slam that continues to elude him, is going to at least be behind him until we restart this narrative again next year. His game's also churning after producing back-to-back victories at the Zurich team event where he partnered with Shane Lowry, and then last week's Wells Fargo Championship. Rory's one of those golfers where when he finds success at a course, he usually continues to parlay it. His last major championship victory, which is an astounding thing to say, Charlie, like when you think of Rory, came 2014 at this particular course. But, 10 years is a long time in between wins if he's able to get the job done again this week. I don't know technically how many more majors he captures throughout his career. I do think when we look at this in just a vacuum situation, this is probably one of the best opportunities that he's going to have. I love Rory on these long and wet golf courses. It really accentuates his upside. I just have a problem with the sub 10-1 price that we're paying. This has been 40 tournaments, give or take, of him in major championships where he has not won. Betting him at around 8-1 is not necessarily the wager that I want to be making on him, but this is the best opportunity that he's had in arguably 10 years since he won at Valhalla. So it's an optimistic buy, but maybe not for the price that you have to pay.
Right. Plus 750 does feel a bit short, even with him, or a bit long, a bit short, given the fact that he is fresh off the win on Wells Fargo. But again, you mentioned it, and that was what I was going to say after, was he hasn't won since 2014. Obviously, he does have the 2 major championship or PGA championships under his belt, so the experience is there, but definitely a short number, close to Scottie Scheffler, who it feels like he's on another planet than the rest of these golfers. The next one on deck I want to bring up, Jordan Spieth. And obviously you mentioned Rory McIlroy and his, the Grand Slam and the Masters and that haunting him. Well, Jordan Spieth has the same exact thing, but with the PGA Championship. He's gotten second before, has never won. Are you looking to buy him?
So I had this conversation yesterday with Keith Stewart. He works for the PGA Tour, Golf Digest. That's a few of the gigs that he does amongst all the other ones that he has. And he brought up a really interesting point with Jordan Spieth and players in general, which go into this Rory McIlroy conversation we just had. Every single player that has captured the career Grand Slam over any recent duration of time has done so within 3 attempts of having that opportunity. Essentially, if they don't accomplish that feat during the time frame, it becomes, I guess, what I would call this runaway battle. It's almost like this virtual mirage where it's right there, but there's actually not within sight of it. Like, look at Augusta and Rory. There's just a certain pressure that ramps up and creates havoc over time. I've always thought that Spieth's driving inaccuracy hurts him the most during a PGA Championship. That would be even the best versions of him end up struggling to find high-end success at these particular venues for that reason. I think when you add in the current form that places him 81st in this field for weighted proximity, anything that is not a victory when you're trying to accomplish history here is going to be a disappointment in his quest. I don't think Jordan Spieth wins. There is that outside chance where he comes inside the top 20 and potentially overproduces from what we've seen. But if he's not winning, that is going to be the downside that he wants to get off of his plate. So I don't think he leaves Valhalla with the title. I'm going to say he's a sell this week.
And I do wonder, if he gets to that Sunday and he's within a few strokes, if that starts to haunt him. He has one little slip up. We know Spieth can kind of spiral at times. He is 66-1 over at BetMGM. So, definitely a longer shot than a lot of the guys we're discussing here. But as Spencer puts it, he is not buying him to take home that Grand Slam. But let's talk next up, Brooks Koepka, the defending champ here at the PGA. He's won 3 of the last 6 in general. Also in form, right? We talk about Rory being able to win Wells Fargo, while Brooks Koepka fresh off Live Golf Singapore, capturing that win. Are you looking to buy or sell Brooks?
We were having a conversation, or you were at least included in the conversation before the Masters, and we were talking off air, and I said never Brooks in any situation, that this public sentiment behind him always pushes me in a direction where I want to fade the narrative. And that's maybe been a blind spot of my model in a lot of these spots. I'm going to give the shocking answer this week. I'm going to buy Brooks Koepka. He graded first in my model for past PGA Championship results. Now, Charlie, that naturally is going to be the answer when you've won 3 of the past 6. This is not me necessarily reinventing the wheel and saying something extremely profound. If he's not number one in my model when I'm looking at only PGA championships, probably doing something wrong in excluding the victories that he's had. But for me, it's this course specific outlook where I took the strokes gain for Valhalla and I tried to weigh the best players in the field. He was also number one for me in that metric. I really think that secondary part of the answer holds a lot of weight because it shows him to be the best suited player in this field for the course when you combine the long iron proximity that you always get at the PGA Championships, the quality total driving that you're going to need that are geared towards distance, and then this increase in putting that he has. Like, we talk about this almost every single week that I'm on the show, Charlie, where there are certain setups and different grass types that are going to reward players. And that is what I look for inside of my model, where there are buy candidates and there are sell candidates based off of what kind of grass we have, what kind of a distance we're looking at, how is this layout going to either be a pro or a con for a player's game. Koepka's historical dominance, when you give him Zoysia fairways and bent grass greens, two factors that he's going to get this week, have been historical across the board. Zoysia props your ball up on the fairway, so it makes it a very pure sort of a shot that you get on your second shot. And then these bent grass greens are very equally pure. Probably a better word that I can use there than even that. But it's Koepka's one of those fickle golfers where, you know, slow play and things like that and anything that's outside of the norm sometimes bothers him. You give him one of these pristine conditions, historically over and over again, he's found success. So I know that the public sentiment around him is going to be very bullish, and normally my model likes to find the opposite approach with that. I think this is a nice price for him, even with all of that being said.
Right. You mentioned the public being bullish on Brooks Koepka. He is, as of recently at BetMGM, the second most bet golfer in terms of tickets and money. But as you've mentioned, right, 3 PGA Championship wins. He's got the comfortability there. The form is also there coming off the win. It also feels like Brooks, you know, he always comes to play at these big events, and this is his time to shine, and a little bit of a stiff for the live golfers coming in here against the PGA, you know, mass group. But the last guy I want to ask you about, and another buy or sell live tour golfer, is Jon Rahm. Obviously, he joined in 2024. He joined the live golf after, you know, a lot of ups and downs and enjoying hypocrisy criticism, but he most recently finished outside the top 40 at the Masters, does not have a win under his belt this season at live, but he is a guy that you are keying on here because of the price.
Every golfer who moves to live experiences a certain negative trajectory movement at some point. We see that here for Rahm. This is a name that was 8-1 to capture the PGA Championship last year. He was 12-1 at that Masters that you just talked about this season, but now he's jumped into this juiced up price zone after he's failed to realize his long-term production, really after one shaky start at the Masters. That is something that we are going to get quite often for names who move to live and aren't winning, since it does turn into this out of sight, out of mind sort of answer that comes into play. However, there are certain players, like on the flip side of that, I do think Brooks and Bryson are going to be the most bet live golfers. And there's the public sentiment around them where there's intrigue. You have the reverse of that answer with names like Jon Rahm, who drifts on the odds board, or Dustin Johnson, who is continuing to drift on the odds board. Like, you can get Dustin Johnson at 105-1 out there. I understand that, like, there's question marks on if Dustin can win again and where's Dustin's mindset really at, because Dustin, more than most players, needs the reps. I don't like him being on a tour where, you know, there's a lot of money that's been handed to him. I don't know where his mind is at, but you got to look at that 105-1 number and kind of just see this live drift that is happening across the board. And this is what occurred with Rahm here at this 18-1 price. I grabbed it at 20-1 early in the week. I do think you can still shop around and potentially find some numbers very similar to that in the space. But first in my model for projected ball striking at this course, that generated that profile that continues to be unjustifiably modified. And it's happening for every single live golfer, as I talked about. So I thought this created one of the best values on the board to consider in the outright market. And this is an average price we're talking about. If you look at Rahm over the past, let's just say 3 seasons, this has been a 9 or 10-1 golfer that is now doubled in price. For really no reason than one bad start at the Masters and a lack of victories on the Live Tour that we've gotten over his couple starts.
Man, you're talking to what I want to hear. I love Dustin Johnson, and 100 to 1 seems long. I love John Rahm. He took home I believe it was the Masters last year that I had money on as well. So I might be buying John Rahm with you. I love hearing this Live Tour love going on, but let's talk one more best bet. Can't let you go without one matchup, and I think, and I want to say, the luck turned. I was originally your bad voodoo. Now the good luck's coming. You have another matchup for me between Shane Lowry, Tom Kim. You rolling with the old bull in Shane Lowry or the young buck in Tom Kim?
Yeah, and I will say this, Charlie, like it was a very short bad run that we had. We just had a golfer pull out of a tournament, and we're back on track with the victories that we've had in the head-to-head market. But I'm going to lay a little bit more juice than I normally would in one of these matchups, and I'm going to take the old man here in Shane Lowry at -129 over Tom Kim. There was no player in this field that ended up grading as a more overpriced commodity than Tom Kim within my model. I always talk about these things. I run everything from a 2-year perspective to avoid some of these recency biases that can quickly plummet a profile. I don't want Kim's 5 straight starts losing with his irons or a driver that has gone south in 5 of 6 to completely ruin a profile if it would have been stout from a numerical perspective. But that's the thing here, is that even the extended period of time that I'm looking for has these massive red flags that are coming into play with him ranking outside of the top 100 overall golfers in my sheet. He ranked historically 124th in this field when faced with a long course that's going to have thick rough. That's what he gets this week. 92nd for me in reprojected strokes gained total. And he's yet to make a cut in 3 career PGA Championship attempts, losing an average of 2.36 strokes to the field per round. Tom Kim is a young golfer. I don't necessarily want to take that 2.36 strokes and say this is what you should expect every single time that he gets a PGA Championship test. But you add that to an already poor trending form of data that we have, and this just turned into one of those opportunities for me where I honestly think this price should have been more in the -160, -170 zone here. It's a very extreme volatile profile that we get with Kim, and I like taking the safer golfer here with Lowry. 7 consecutive made cuts at the PGA Championship. You want to even look for some of that upside. 5 of those finishes have landed inside the top 23. I think if Lowry can get himself to the weekend, we're already potentially looking good at hitting this wager. But even if Tom Kim is able to get himself to Saturday and Sunday, I like the overall floor that Lowry provides me over this boom or bust nature of Tom Kim.
Right. When you said this bet, and I was like 3 straight cuts missed in 3 straight appearances, it really seems like you can buy in on Shane Lowry, who did finish top 5 in 2021 at the PGA Championship. The veteran experience is there. It always seems like Lowry's just sticking around. Sometimes you see him pop up in that top 10 to 20 range in some of the big events. So love this bet here. Spencer Aguiar, thank you for hopping on. A quick just recap. You're cautious on Rory selling Jordan Spieth, buying the live golfers, Brooks and Rahm. And then, of course, Shane Lowry over Tom Kim is his best bet. Spencer, thank you so much and have a great week.
Thank you, Charlie. Appreciate it as always.
And just a reminder that any picks we give out here on the show, like the ones you just heard from Spencer, you can easily reference by following Green Dot Daily in the Action app. We keep track so you don't have to. And that's going to be all for Green Dot Daily on this Tuesday. We'll be back tomorrow at 3 Eastern on the Action app and YouTube channel. A reminder, give us a like and subscribe if you haven't already. We really appreciate it. But have a great rest of your day.